Hey everyone. When you scan a college basketball slate like today's, some games feel routine, but then there are matchups that practically jump off the page. Lines that look massive, uncomfortable, or even disrespectful. Those aren't accidents. They're signals. The numbers are telling a story before the first tip, and it's up to us to read it. Today, we've got several of those games, and we're going to break them down the way we always do here on Beyond the Box Score. Real analysis, sharp matchup breakdowns, and angles that give you insight into exactly what's happening on the court. Before we dive in, a quick reminder, supporting the channel keeps these daily breakdowns alive. Less than 25% of you watching are actually subscribed. If you're finding value in the analysis, if you enjoy the picks, and if you want to help push the channel toward our 2,000 subscriber goal, we're currently at 1,272, hit that subscribe button. It literally takes 1 second, but it helps the channel in a huge way and keeps this content coming. Game 1, St. John's vs. Kentucky. As we turn our attention to the first marquee matchup of the day, St. John's squares off against Kentucky in a neutral site contest that promises intensity, grit, and a clash of styles. On paper, it's a battle between two programs with vastly different trajectories this season, but the spread leans in favor of St. John's at -2.5. The Red Storm have been a team built on physicality, aggression, and relentless attack, and that style is precisely what gives them the edge in this matchup. With a record of 7-3, St. John's has demonstrated resilience and the ability to dominate when it matters most. Their 3 losses, by 11 to Auburn, 7 to Alabama, and a narrow 1-point setback against Iowa State, highlight a team that can hang with quality opponents, yet occasionally falter. When they win, they do so convincingly, as shown in victories over Ole Miss and Baylor, not to mention their 1-0 start in conference play with a win over DePaul. Statistically, St. John's is a high-powered offensive team, averaging 88 points per game while operating at a top 30 pace. They shoot 48% from the field, emphasizing a downhill attack rather than reliance on perimeter shooting. Three-pointers are not their bread and butter. Instead, they focus on getting to the hoop, drawing fouls, and controlling the boards. Rick Pitino's brand of basketball, physical, strategic, and fundamentally aggressive, defines every possession, and in a matchup against a Kentucky team struggling with depth and toughness, it could be the deciding factor. Kentucky enters this neutral site contest with a 7-4 record, including losses to North Carolina, Gonzaga, Michigan State, and Louisville. Their most recent win, a 12-point triumph over Indiana at home, comes with caveats. This was a controlled environment, a true home game, where the Hoosiers provided no significant road test. Kentucky lacks the grit to handle hostile or neutral environments effectively and is still missing a key contributor in Quintance, the sophomore transfer from Arizona State who would normally anchor the frontcourt. Their road performance historically has been inconsistent, and coaching under John Pope has not inspired confidence in their ability to overcome adversity. In terms of the spread, St. John's -2.5 represents more than just a number. It reflects the balance of coaching experience, roster strength, and systemic advantages. Kentucky may benefit from crowd presence, but St. John's aggressive style and ability to control tempo, coupled with their superior size and physicality down low, points toward a close but controlled victory. Observationally, a parlay scenario could emerge if St. John's hits their field goal percentages while maintaining rebounding dominance and tempo control. Their ability to draw fouls and get to the line could amplify the impact of a small spread, turning marginal possessions into decisive moments. Kentucky's vulnerabilities, particularly in their interior defense and lack of toughness, leave them exposed to a Red Storm team that thrives on pressure, positioning, and consistent offensive execution. Game 2, Marshall vs. Troy. Turning to the Sun Belt Conference opener, Marshall travels to face Troy in a game that carries subtle complexities beyond the stat sheet. The spread leans toward Troy, yet the Rebels find themselves at +4.5 on the road, signaling an interesting clash of styles, recent form, and personnel advantages. Marshall enters this contest at 7-4, coming off a narrow home win against Wright State by just 2 points, and they've had a full week to prepare for the conference opener, a crucial period to sharpen rotations and evaluate matchups. This preparation time could play a critical role, especially given their ability to execute on both ends against quality competition. Marshall's stats reveal a well-rounded squad. 80 points per game at a top 115 pace, shooting 46% from the field, and converting 36% of three-point attempts. Their assist rate stands at 17 per game, ranking them in the top 100 nationally, underscoring an offensive system that emphasizes ball movement, spacing, and opportunistic scoring. The presence of a 7 feet 4 inches, 260-pound center adds a dominating interior presence, one that Troy may struggle to contain on both ends of the floor. Troy, on the other hand, arrives with a 7-5 record, including notable wins and losses that make them a difficult team to predict. They have managed a significant road win at San Diego State, yet inconsistencies are glaring. A double overtime loss to USC and defeats at the hands of Toledo, CSUN, Loyola, Paramount, and West Georgia. They average 89 points per game while playing at a top 75 pace, yet their defensive efficiency leaves much to be desired. A true home game advantage exists, but contextual factors cannot be ignored. Troy faces a 2 p.m. tip-off likely influenced by fan absence or distractions from external events, potentially diminishing the energy and impact of home court advantage. From a matchup perspective, Marshall's combination of high assist ball movement, scoring balance, and a massive interior presence could exploit Troy's defensive lapses. Observationally, parlay scenarios may develop if Marshall maintains efficient shooting while controlling rebounds and exploiting the interior mismatch. Troy's tempo is higher, but if turnovers and defensive breakdowns continue, that pace advantage may backfire. The spread lean toward Marshall plus 4.5 captures the subtleties of experience, preparation time, and strategic matchups, suggesting a tightly contested game where small margins in execution could determine the final outcome. Game 3, Central Michigan vs. Northern Illinois. As we move to the MAC opener between Central Michigan and Northern Illinois, the narrative is one of evenly matched teams, each 4-7 on the year, where small advantages in coaching, roster composition, and physicality could tilt the scales. Central Michigan arrives with a record of 4-7 but has demonstrated flashes of dominance against Division I opponents, including a 16-point opening night win against App State and a 23-point victory over Coppin State. Losses to Northern Kentucky, Marquette, St. Louis, and Bradley reflect the challenge of competing consistently on the road against higher-level competition. Statistically, Central Michigan averages 74 points per game while playing at a bottom 175 pace, shooting 45% from the field. Under first-year D1 head coach Andy Braunma, the team relies heavily on transfers from D2. Supplemented by a Michigan transfer playing around 4 minutes per game, emphasizing a roster still finding its identity at this level. Northern Illinois mirrors these struggles, with a 4-7 record and 2 Division I wins, opening night over Ulm by 20 points and a victory against Loyal Chicago by 17 points. They score 77 points per game at a top 150 pace, shooting 43% from the field. The combination of similar scoring output, pace, and efficiency sets up a matchup where coaching and physical advantages down low could be decisive. Central Michigan's roster possesses stronger, more physically imposing players in the paint, while Braunma's first-year leadership could allow for sharper rotations, better exploitation of defensive weaknesses, and improved late-game execution. Observationally, the spread lean towards Central Michigan plus 2.5 highlights the subtle edges in preparation, coaching, and interior dominance. Parlay scenarios may emerge if Central Michigan can control tempo while capitalizing on close-range efficiency, balancing scoring and defense against a Northern Illinois squad that lacks consistent interior presence. Both teams present an analytical challenge, but incremental advantages in execution and physicality suggest that Central Michigan's disciplined approach could provide the edge in a low-tempo, high-stakes conference opener. Game 4, Northwestern vs. Butler. The final matchup of our breakdown takes us to Gainbridge Fieldhouse, where Butler faces Northwestern in a neutral site contest that could carry significant implications for both programs' postseason outlooks. Butler is favored at -1.5, a modest spread reflective of their stronger roster and coaching experience. Northwestern enters with a 7-4 record, but their losses read like a who's who of high-caliber opponents: Oklahoma State, Wisconsin, and Ohio State. Their best win, a narrow 2-point triumph over DePaul at a neutral site, illustrates the fine margins separating success from struggle in their season thus far. Northwestern scores 82 points per game at a bottom 100 pace, making only 6 3-pointers per contest. They returned 2 starters from last season, but roster modifications, including a guard from USF and a backup center from Cincinnati, introduce elements of both potential and inconsistency. Their style focuses on tempo control, rebounding, and slowing possessions, but whether that can counter Butler's superior size, experience, and scoring ability remains the central question. Butler arrives with an 8-3 record, losses including a 1-point setback to SMU, a home loss to Boise State by approximately 10, and a double-digit defeat to UConn. Despite these setbacks, their veteran roster represents the best and most expensive collection under head coach Todd Mata, combining leadership, size, and skill in critical positions. Statistically, Butler averages 88 points per game and features a dominant frontcourt presence courtesy of a Gonzaga transfer, complemented by leadership at the guard spot from Flap Flaphouse, whose skill and court vision are central to Butler's offensive efficiency. The team is expected to garner crowd support despite the neutral site, and their coaching advantage, combined with roster depth, underscores why the spread leans toward them in this matchup. From an analytical perspective, scenarios could develop where Butler leverages size advantage and scoring efficiency to overcome Northwestern's tempo and rebounding-focused strategy. Observationally, parlay considerations emerge if Butler hits their scoring benchmarks while limiting Northwestern's interior success. The matchup emphasizes style over records, Butler's veteran leadership and efficient scoring juxtaposed against Northwestern's struggling but disciplined squad set the stage for a close, competitive contest where every possession carries weight and every matchup, down low and on the perimeter, could determine the outcome. Game 5, Ohio vs. Bowling Green. As we kick off the MAC opener, Ohio welcomes Bowling Green in what promises to be an intriguing early season clash. Ohio, now 5-6 on the year after a rocky 1-6 start, enters this game riding a 4-game winning streak that has seen them rebuild confidence and rhythm. Their recent victories include notable wins over St. Bonaventure and Marshall, with their remaining victories spread across lesser competition, including one Division II opponent and a win against Maine. Losses have been hard-fought and varied, a road defeat at Louisville, a neutral site setback at St. Mary's vs. George Mason, and a home loss to Arkansas State. The Bobcats have been battle-tested, forced to compete against multiple challenging environments, which could serve them well against a Bowling Green squad whose profile remains somewhat murky. Bowling Green, standing at 8-3, has won 5 of its last 6 contests, yet the quality of their schedule raises questions. Their 3 losses came at the hands of Davidson, William and Mary, and Utah Valley, while their victories include a road win against Kansas State, along with BMI, Chicago State, and Le Moyne. The Falcons average 87 points per game and play at a top 50 pace, shooting 49% from the field. While those numbers appear impressive, it is crucial to note that Bowling Green has faced 2 Division II teams and only 1 true test in Kansas State, which itself is not particularly strong. In other words, Bowling Green's stats may be semi-skewed by a soft schedule. The line here sees Ohio favored on the moneyline at -110 with the over set at 150.5, reflecting a contest expected to be high-paced and high-scoring. The Bobcats' streaking form and experience against better competition may grant them the edge, especially considering Bowling Green's lack of proven competition. Strategically, this could be a game where Ohio leverages its tested offensive schemes and disciplined play to exploit Bowling Green's inconsistencies. Observationally, a parlay scenario could develop if Ohio maintains scoring efficiency while Bowling Green's pace and shooting contribute to a high total, allowing the over to materialize in conjunction with Ohio's streaking momentum. Contextually, this matchup is not just about numbers, it is about tested toughness versus statistical appearances, and in this case, the Bobcats appear primed to assert control. Game 6, Maryland vs. Virginia. Next, we travel to the ACC, where Maryland faces a daunting road test at Virginia. The spread leans heavily toward Virginia at 16.5 points, yet the dynamics of this matchup suggest a more nuanced narrative. Maryland enters at 6-5 on the season, with a recent home loss to Michigan by 18 points that belies a stronger underlying performance, as they held the Wolverines at halftime and kept morale intact despite the final deficit. Maryland also faces an injury concern with Payne listed as questionable, sidelined for approximately 2 weeks. Payne's presence down low is critical for interior defense and rebounding, and his status could significantly influence Maryland's ability to compete against Virginia's size and efficiency. Virginia, 9-1 and ranked number 23 nationally, has displayed elite consistency. Their wins include Dayton, Texas, and Northwestern, while their only loss came to Butler at a neutral site, falling by 7 points. Statistically, Virginia averages 87 points per game, operating at a bottom 100 pace while shooting 49% from the field. They are highly effective from beyond the arc, making 11 three-pointers per contest. While undeniably talented, the 17-point home favorite spread in this game is extreme against a Big Ten school like Maryland. Maryland has had a week to prepare and may leverage familiarity, motivation, and tactical planning to keep the game within striking distance. Analytically, this game sets up as a scenario where Maryland's determination and need for a statement victory could create value relative to the large spread. If Maryland can control tempo, contest shots, and mitigate Virginia's perimeter shooting, the dynamics could allow the Terrapins to exceed expectations. Observationally, parlay-like outcomes emerge if Maryland hits critical scoring benchmarks while Virginia's pace and three-point reliance leave openings for a closer than expected result. While the Cavaliers are clearly a top-tier program, this matchup underscores the subtle interplay between raw talent, situational motivation, and the psychology of a team seeking a signature win. Game 7, Buffalo vs. Stanford. The final marquee game of our breakdown takes us to a neutral site in Phoenix, where Buffalo faces Stanford in a contest shaped by contrasting schedules, experience, and physical presence. Stanford enters at 9-2, with 2 losses, an 8-point setback to Seattle at home or neutral and a 1-point defeat to UNLV. Their best win came via a neutral site buzzer beater against St. Louis. Despite those results, Stanford averages 82 points per game at a top 175 pace, shooting 44% from the field, yet they lack notable size or interior dominance. Buffalo, or as referenced in the transcript as Colorado, but clearly intended to be Buffalo, stands at 10-1 with a single loss on the road in a rivalry game at Colorado State by 5 points. They are a team that scores 88 points per game, operates at a top 175 pace, and shoots 52% from the field. Notably, Buffalo does not rely on three-point shooting. Instead, their size and interior prowess are key, allowing them to punish opponents down low. The neutral site in Phoenix presents a challenge in terms of fan energy and environment, but Buffalo's superior talent, battle-tested schedule, and ability to execute across all facets of the game make them a formidable opponent against a Stanford team that has faced comparatively weaker competition. From an analytical perspective, this matchup favors Buffalo in multiple dimensions: scoring efficiency, pace control, interior dominance, and overall experience. Observational parlay considerations could emerge if Buffalo executes efficiently while the game's pace and scoring totals align with expectations for a high efficiency. Size-driven team. This game underscores the classic battle of experience versus inexperience, tested schedules versus soft schedules, and the impact of physicality and interior dominance in determining outcomes. The neutral site removes traditional home court influence, placing the emphasis squarely on execution, talent, and preparation. Almost bets and additional observations. Beyond the primary matchups, several almost bets provide additional context for analytical consideration. Montana faced a difficult schedule, losing a home game to an NCAA school before traveling to Louisville, representing arguably the toughest spot of the season. Buffalo on the road at Western Michigan is also notable, as they had lost 2 consecutive games but remain a strong, talented squad, with a suggested lean of -1.5. Lafayette at Charlotte failed to cover an 11-12 spread, yet the moneyline appeared attractive, suggesting a plus 15.5 potential impact in an analytical scenario. This slate is loaded with compelling matchups where defense, shooting efficiency, and free throw opportunities could be the difference makers. The key is understanding the matchups, historical context, and statistical edges. Those are what give you a real roadmap through the chaos. Here at Beyond the Box Score, We break down every angle, every stat, and every trend so you can approach the action with confidence and clarity. Make sure to follow, subscribe, and stay locked in for the most detailed, analytical, and actionable daily college basketball breakdowns.